at Mayo Clinic's articles, we are able to view redemption in various ways, such as in the form of forgiveness. Diving into the topic, Mayo Clinic states that forgiveness can be hard when a person who's hurt you doesn't admit to his or her wrongs. A person will not be able to redeem themselves unless they apologize for his or her wrongs to the person that they have wronged. Someone who requires forgiveness should not judge themselves too harshly, as we all need to remember that we are only humans and it is in our nature to make mistakes. The importance of these mistakes are that we learn from them and move on with our lives. Forgiveness may not always guarantee the reconciliation of a relationship between two people because of situational circumstances such as lack of communication, effort, or death. Whatever reason it may be, there will always be room for atonement. Holding toxic resentments and grudges against anyone, and especially yourself, will not allow you to grow but will instead hold you back from fully being able to move on and accept. By not accepting or forgiving the actions of other people or yourself, the negative damages can build and become detrimental to your happiness, personality, and identity. When one holds these feelings and is unable to let go, the feelings can build into a sensation that life lacks meaning or purpose. Others or ourselves, we lose connections with those who may have meant greatly to us. Whatever the case may be, forgiveness changes your perspective and allows you to open yourself to endless possibilities as you eliminate all these negative emotions.
This is a personal piece that I've written and would like to share. This piece adds to our presentation and central question as it shares from another perspective, the perspective of someone who has been wronged.
It's Tuesday. I can feel you. I can feel the weight of you on my shoulders. I can feel the warmth of your breath against the surface of my skin. But can I truly feel you? Feel you where I long to be felt most. My heart longs for the days when I was your first choice. The days when you only had eyes for me. It was something stupid like a text, something small that made me feel like you had the power to hold me once again like nothing had changed. Maybe to you nothing had changed. But for me, I'm still trying to forgive you. But it's true when they say love is hard to find, hard to keep, and hard to forget. Because I'd rather be with you, feel you as close as you can get than not feel you at all. Maybe my heart will start again. Maybe the ice-cold chambers will warm to the touch of your presence. Opening up and ready to be felt again. It's Tuesday, and I just want you to hold me.
The speaker reflects on the pain that she's experienced and the feelings that she continues to hold. As she expresses her longing for the past and the times before mistakes were made, she struggles to let go and move on. The speaker nearly feels as if she's being held back, haunted by the actions of someone she loves. As the poem progresses, the speaker chooses to try and forgive in an effort to make things the same as they once were. From watching this text, we understand that redemption can come in small and simple ways and make a great impact on allowing others to forgive and move on. Now we would like to embrace our central text, the Kite Runner, as the main character of our story. Amir is a perfect example of the difficult and indirect path to redemption and learns the values and importance of forgiving and moving on. The Kite Runner is a story about two young boys who deal with the issues of loyalty, betrayal, and redemption. Amir, the boy who lives under the shadow of his legendary father known as Baba, struggles to forgive himself for being a coward all his life and the actions he created as a child. Hassan, the Hazara boy who is a servant of Amir, leads a difficult but honorable life in the story as he always puts others before himself. Throughout the boys' youth, they share a special bond similarly as brothers would. Meanwhile, Amir, because of his lacking of emotional connection with his father, he feels envious of Hassan and intuitively feels as if Baba might like Hassan more, even if he doesn't show it. The plot twist thickens by the end of the book when Amir learns that they are in fact half-brothers, as Baba is the biological father to them both. Amir is always testing the limits of his power on Hassan by playing tricks on him. One day he asks Hassan if he would eat dirt if he asked him to. Hassan, the boy with the big smile, finally became serious and looked deeply into Amir's eyes and replied with, "Well, would you ask me to?" These questions that the boys ask questions the loyalty and love within their relationship. This is only a theoretical situation where Amir has the opportunity to lie and say, "Of course not." But in the winter of 1975, Amir's actions speak louder than words. In Kabul, the annual kite running competition is taking place, and Amir is more determined than ever to win. because winning the competition meant that he would win his father's love. By winning the competition, this only brings Amir temporary satisfaction, as the connection he builds with Baba only lasts a few months, just enough time to forget the win and remember the betrayal he brings upon his son. Shortly after the last kite falls and Hassan runs after to catch it, Amir finds Hassan in an alleyway, surrounded by 3 lethal boys, threatening Hassan for the kite. Amir now had to decide. Would he ask Hassan to eat the dirt? Is he willing to sacrifice his and Hassan's relationship in trade for his father's? He does. And by Hassan eating the dirt, this only brings Amir total guilt and misery, as he is forever unable to forget the winter of 1975 and the way he abandoned and betrayed Hassan. Flashing forward 20 years, Amir still feels the same shame for his actions he made as a child, for not standing up for Hassan and protecting him from being raped in trade for the kite. But Amir now has the opportunity to, as his uncle Rahim Khan would say, be good again, meaning redeeming himself for the wrong he'd done to Hassan in their childhood. This could only be done if Amir would go back to the dangerous, war-ridden area of Kabul from his safe San Francisco neighborhood to seek and adopt late Hassan's son Sohrab. By risking his life going to Afghanistan, he again faces the same boy who rapes Hassan, Asef. This time, Amir would no longer be a coward. By fighting Asef and nearly being beaten to death, he is freed from the guilt which haunts him every day of his life. It is only when he can no longer stand on his own 2 feet and is continuously being beat that he finally feels redeemed. It is now Amir's turn to eat the dirt, to do right by Hassan, and sacrifice himself for the good of the child.
Similarly, before Baba becomes this legendary, well-respected man, he too makes his mistakes in the past. By committing adultery and sleeping with a Hazara woman, Baba seeks help from his best friend, Hassan's father, and asks him to take in Hassan and raise him as his own, and to marry the Hazara woman. Baba is unable to forgive himself for this action, as he still lives with Hassan's father on a daily basis and grows attached to the young boy, but is held back because he is unable to show his love for Hassan. This secret of his motivates him to redeem himself in other ways, such as donating money to those in need and building orphanages to free himself from the guilt within. Amir and Baba both make mistakes at a young age, but choose to grow from these events in order to become better people. By accepting their actions and changing to make right, they are trying to redeem themselves from self-hatred, disappointment, and guilt. By changing their ways, they are able to move on and become better, true people, bringing something good into the world. What we learn from these texts are that with every mistake there is an opportunity for redemption, and even though we may not always be able to atone for our sins directly to those we've hurt, we are able to remove ourselves from guilt and debt by bringing good upon other people. Ourselves or others seeking for redemption to bring honor to ourselves, our community, and those we care for. This is leading to our next
Help, where the story revolves around Aileen, a colored nanny working in a home and community of Caucasian people, and Skeeter, a young Caucasian female who is not interested in looking for a husband, but is more focused on her career and more than anything else pursuing justice and redemption for what is happening to the black community. In the story, Skeeter's mother Charlotte betrays their nanny Constantine, who is of color, when she has guests coming over. Because Constantine as well as she once did, she makes the guests feel a little uncomfortable. When Rachel, Constantine's daughter, comes into the home through the front door, she too makes the guests feel uncomfortable. This is when Rachel and the guests put Charlotte in an uncomfortable position of having to decide between performing or standing up for Constantine, staying loyal to her long-time servant. This is when Charlotte betrays her. Charlotte doesn't realize the consequences of her actions until she fails at pursuing redemption by asking for Constantine's forgiveness and inviting her back home. But it is too late, as Constantine has already left for Chicago. Charlotte is never able to redeem herself and feels guilt as she has not only conformed to society but betrayed both her loyal nanny and daughter Skeeter. Throughout the book, Skeeter's mother disapproves of Skeeter's actions and ways, But it is by the end of the story, when The Help, Skeeter's book, is actually published, that she expresses to Skeeter how proud of her she is, and how Skeeter is the only one who can bring courage back into their family. That Skeeter is the only one who can bring redemption to their family name.
Have you lost your mind?
During this time, racism is a strong issue in Jackson, Mississippi, as colored people are not accepted into society and are segregated. 2 years before the creation of the book The Help, which Skeeter and Aibileen participate in writing, Aibileen loses her son Treeler at the age of 24. Treeler dies while working on the job. He dies due to his injuries because he's neglected his workers' rights, protection, and treatment because of the reason that he's black. This is when the bitter seed begins to grow within the heart of Aibileen. She continues to live her life solely out of survival and fear. This bitter seed which lives within her is born out of the injustice she feels that has occurred to her, her son, and the black community. Her son's death and passion for writing motivates her to express and let the world know of the injustice that is occurring. By helping Skeeter write the book, The Help, which is based on the story of the colored nannies of Jackson, Mississippi, Aibileen chooses to participate in a great risk as she could be endangering or sacrificing her job, future, and life. When the book becomes published, Aibileen feels freed and as if she is finally able to breathe again, as she is no longer bound by her life. And although her life may be more difficult now, she is able to let go of the past and the fear she lives in by letting the world know hers, Treeler's, and the black community stories. Because of this, she feels untouchable. This is shown symbolically at the end of the film as she walks alone through a forest path on a sunny day.
No one had ever asked me what it felt like to be me. Once I told the truth about that, I felt free.
The central themes that occur in the film The Help revolve around the idea of hope and breaking free from the aspects of life which hold us back. In The Help, the issues the characters face deal with oppression, racism, and breaking free from conformity. As the book The Help is finally published, the characters are finally able to accept their actions and move on. From this text, we learn that in life we may seek redemption not for only ourselves, but for those around us in order to restore happiness and satisfaction for a greater cause.
This closely relates to our next text, the Redemption Song, in terms of breaking free from oppression and mental imprisonment.
The Redemption Song is composed by Bob Marley and is a song influenced by the oppression and slavery of African people around the New World. The song clearly expresses how humans at times succumb to being directed in life because of social norms, oppression, and or discrimination. As seen in verse 4 of the song, the lyrics express that we are only free when we ourselves choose to emancipate from mental slavery and that none but ourselves can free our minds. The true meaning behind this message is that the only thing that truly controls a person's freedom and happiness is their own mind, and that if one does not free their own mind, they will crumble to the imprisonment that either they or others have enclosed them in. The song's message is powerful. The lyrics tell us that no matter what hardships we come across, whether it be from oppression to self-resentment, we still have the opportunity and power to choose when we want to free ourselves, mentally that is. This clearly connects to the text Shawshank Redemption and the documentary What I Want My Words to Do to You, when the main characters seek to find self-acceptance and hope for freedom from guilt even when enclosed by prison walls. Exploring the film Shawshank Redemption, we watch the story of a man named Andy Dufresne unfold as he is falsely accused of murdering his wife and lover and is sentenced to 2 life terms in Shawshank Prison. During Andy's time in the prison, he is faced with the brutality of some of the inmates and the guards. Through this experience of being constantly beaten, he learns to adapt to the environment of the prison. A significant moment in the film is when Andy puts himself at risk by making a deal with the most aggressive officer in the facility to trade his banking services for beer for his fellow inmates working outside the prison. This is a significant moment because as he watches his friends drinking the cold beers, he feels like a normal person, like he felt free. Red is a friendly inmate who Andy befriends when he arrives at the prison. He's had the chance for parole, but was rejected. Because of the constant rejection Red faces after each opportunity for parole arises, he finally results in a feeling of hopelessness as he feels his time for freedom will never come. This situation later changes when Andy first arrives at the prison. Even throughout the years that pass by in Red and Andy's friendship, Red is continuously surprised by the fact that even though Andy has been wrongfully accused and is abused by the guards and inmates, he still holds on to the hope that one day he will leave Shawshank Prison. This is the characteristic that Red admires most about Andy. At one point in the story, Andy escapes the prison by digging through the walls of his cell and crawls through 500 yards of poop in a sewage pipe that led way outside the prison. This 500 yards of sewage can be seen as a metaphor for life. Andy, like the rest of us, has to go through trouble and difficult efforts in order to appreciate the freedom we earn by the end of our struggles. Andy went through the trouble of fighting inmates, guard brutality, lived under terrible living conditions, and somehow he managed to survive all of those experiences, and in the end, gained the freedom he has always dreamed of. After another chance of being released from prison, Red too is released from prison and is finally granted parole. Afterwards, Red goes to the home of a past inmate Brooks, who was granted parole several years ago. He learns that Brooks commits suicide because he feels like there is nothing he can offer to the world, and there was nothing he could do to bring back the life he murdered. Red, however, does not choose to kill himself like Brooks does. All the time that Red spends with Andy in their time in prison teaches him that there is always hope and opportunity to become a better person, and that suicide isn't the answer to redeeming or dealing with his regrets and mistakes. The only way that Red can redeem himself is by moving on and learning to make it up to the world by doing good deeds. Life may not always give the guarantee of a person's redemption, but life does give the opportunity to allow a person to hope and try to change for the better.
Similarly, we were able to find this glorious moment of freedom in the text The Help when Aileen walks down her sunny road after a difficult path of trying to break free. By looking at our nonfiction text, the documentary What I Want My Words to Do to You, we find the similar connections of self-discovery, redemption, and mental freedom over physical and emotional boundaries. As Andy physically unburdens himself from the walls which close him in, the women in the documentary equally need to unburden themselves, but less metaphorically and more emotionally, by seeking redemption and purpose from within, and expressing this through community service, and gradually changing who they are and who they seek to become.
For 7 years, I just wanted to die.
In the documentary, What I Want My Words to Do to You, the women in the prison facility are taking a writing workshop to help them acknowledge their actions and try to rehabilitate them, to forgive themselves, to atone, and to become better people. By writing, they discover themselves, their biggest regrets, and their motives behind their actions. And finally, these women learn to strive to become better people. A good example would be one of the women who was serving time for stabbing a man 27 times in the throat during paid intercourse.
Killed a 71-year-old man. A man who could not truly harm me. A man who in 1 minute saw and received all my anger.
The woman, out of aggression and frustration with her situation in life as a prostitute, took out her anger and hatred on him. She expresses thoroughly to the group that no matter what good may come into her life, she will never be able to truly enjoy a moment without being haunted by the guilt and responsibility of her actions. She mentions that suicide is the most tempting option, as nothing she will ever do will be able to make up for what she has done.
And for the rest of my life, that truth will haunt me. I will never believe there is an explanation or reason for what I've done until my last breath leaves my body.
Another member of the group speaks up and asks her, what was the point? The point of it all. What has she learned throughout her time in prison if not redemption? She explains to the woman that if she doesn't try to become good, to bring good upon the world, she will never truly be able to emancipate herself from mental slavery, as she will kill herself with guilt. The women begin to discuss about their interest in a puppy program to raise guide dogs for the blind, and the satisfaction this brings to them. We are able to find similarities with this real-life occurrence with our text Shawshank Redemption and the Redemption Song, as when Brooks is released from Shawshank prison, he seeks suicide as a form of redemption, while Red believes that suicide is only an easy escape from the difficult path of redemption. The TED Talk we are now showing relates to our woman in the facility, as this man himself was once a murderer, drug dealer, and prisoner. He explains to us his path to redemption and how we too can achieve redemption.
And one of the things that we talked about is the 3 things that I found important in my personal transformation. The first being acknowledgement. I had to acknowledge that I had hurt others. I also had to acknowledge that I had been hurt. The second thing was apologizing. I had to apologize to the people I hurt. Even though I had no expectations of them accepting it, it was important to do because it was the right thing. But I also had to apologize to myself. The third thing was atoning. For me, atoning meant going back into my community and working with at-risk youth who were on the same path, but also becoming that one with myself. Through my experience being locked up, one of the things I discovered is this. The majority of men and women who are incarcerated are redeemable. And the fact is, 90% of the men and women who are incarcerated will at some point return to the community. And we have a role in determining what kind of men and women return to our community. My wish today is that we will embrace a more empathetic approach toward how we deal with mass incarceration. That we would do away with the lock them up and throw away the key mentality, because it's proven it doesn't work. My journey is a unique journey, but it doesn't have to be that way. Anybody can have a transformation if we create the space for that to happen. So what I'm asking today is that you envision a world where men and women aren't held hostage to their past, where misdeeds and mistakes doesn't define you for the rest of your life. I think collectively we can create that reality, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
We're all at a point now where they want to get free. That's the primary thing. They want to be free. And I'm not talking about out of prison. I'm talking about they want their souls to be free.
So, does redemption allow us to forgive and move on? In life, no matter how hard we may try, we may not always receive the forgiveness we desire from those we have wronged. Our opportunities to prove ourselves directly to whom we have wronged may not always be available to death, distance, time, or simply because we may face rejection, even in our best efforts to redeem and apologize for what we've done. But this should not stop us. If we desire to become better, to do good, to atone, we are then capable of setting ourselves free from the misery. We are taking the initiative and giving ourselves the opportunity to learn, grow, and essentially move on. The best option we have is to follow our hearts, moral compass, conscience, gut, whatever it is that tells us to do the right thing. Because although doing the right thing may be incredibly difficult to pursue and achieve, it is well worth it. Because the freedom we are rewarded is unimaginable. So our question, does redemption allow us to forgive and move on, comes to a conclusion. The answer is yes. Okay, so Mayo Clinic explains that grudges and hatred are toxic to hold on to and will only make us dwell and resent the past, holding us back from moving forward. The poem exemplifies how even the smallest actions of redemption can bring us great comfort and enable us to move on. Shawshank Redemption shows us how perseverance and good intention can lead us to righteousness. The women in the prison facility show us how important self-reflection and hope truly is to rebuilding our character and view of the world and ourselves. The help proves that mental freedom is equally a necessity regardless of Maslow's hierarchy of needs of food and shelter, as Aileen chooses emotional and mental freedom over her own safety and security. All in all, we as humans make mistakes. We learn, we grow, and we forgive. With each situation we face, and with each decision we make, we influence and develop our character and our lives. Choosing to acknowledge our mistakes, choosing to forgive, and choosing to move on are all incredibly difficult, but incredibly worthwhile, as each reaction we create molds our happiness, satisfaction, and our character, as every lesson in life teaches us something and makes a mark on who we are and who we wish to become. Thank you.